Dragon's Rising is an exceptional continuation of the Ninjago series, and it was refreshing to see the show back on its feet after, in my opinion, the disaster that was crystallized. We were introduced to a whole new cast of characters in addition to the original familiar faces, and the first season laid out the many stories there were to be told about everyone. To me, one of the stories stood out tremendously among the rest of them, and that story was Sora's. To start with, I wasn't the biggest fan of her given her generally pessimistic attitude, but as the show revealed her backstory more and more, I gained a deeper understanding of what shaped her into the person she was at the beginning of Dragon's Rising. Sora's complicated past is very well represented in her personality. Her flashbacks show her as a happy citizen of Imperium with a strong admiration for a certain scientist named Dr. LaRoe. Sora is very enthusiastic about creating and sharing her own technology, which she hopes will change Imperium for the better someday. Her positive outlook and strong hopes of achieving her dreams seem like a stark contrast to who she is during the events of Dragon's Rising. This leaves the audience wondering what could have happened. As the flashbacks continue, tragic revelations about her past begin to unfold, and she's hit with multiple life-changing events in rapid succession. After she develops a device called the Photech, her hero Dr. LaRoe invites her to work at the Advanced Systems Lab. LaRoe introduces her to a dragon used to provide energy to all the citizens of Imperium, and this is where things start to go downhill for her. LaRoe uses the Photech to drain energy from the captive dragon, which is how she finds out that the process of drawing power is painful to dragons. Sora tries to stand against this abuse, but it proves useless because the people of Imperium see them as, in their words, mindless beasts. Sora exits the Advanced Systems Lab and leaves the opportunity of her dreams for the sake of not harming innocent dragons. This alone shows her morality, as she not only makes a great personal sacrifice to avoid hurting dragons, but she also protests the notion that they're disgusting creatures unworthy of proper treatment. This causes her to resent the scientists of Imperium, but what really affects her is how much she comes to resent herself. She feels betrayed and guilty for having something she created being used for something she never would have wanted. However, her struggle was about to reach into other aspects of her life. Her parents find out from LaRoe what happened at the lab, and instead of offering any understanding for their daughter's decisions, they scold her for going against the ways of the Empress Beatrix. All of Imperium refers to her as the Good Empress and are strictly loyal to her ways. Sora's parents take away her workbench, depriving her of the ability to engage in her passion. When she goes to her room, she shows the pain that she feels. She denounces a figure she looked up to all her life, and expressed her feelings of wanting to leave home and Imperium as a whole. This is interrupted by the merge happening right then and there, and this is her prime opportunity to leave Imperium. The events of the first season of Dragon's Rising take place an unspecified number of years after the merge. For all that time, she lived away from Imperium with no intentions of going back, leaving her final experiences there being betrayed and outcast by her own family. Seeing as all of that began with her own creation, her negativity circles back to herself. Part of what I love about her character is that her bitter and pessimistic attitude aren't an exaggerated personality trait. It's very warranted and works as a realistic flaw as well as an internal conflict that Sora has to learn to overcome. In the episode The Last Djinn, she and Nia meet a djinn named Ericor, whose mindset is very reflective of her own. When the three of them are faced with the threat of howlers, Sora has to instill hope in him, and in the process she does the same for herself. After the ordeal, she begins to break through the mental barrier created by her past, and this sets in motion some much-needed character growth. Going through the process of gaining optimism and chipping away at her destructive self-talk is a respectable effort for Sora to go through, and it further enhances her development as a dynamic character. Moving forward towards the end of the season, Sora actually does return to Imperium to free the dragons that are being used for energy. Throughout everything, she's held on to the values she had as a child in spite of them essentially being the root of her rough journey. She could have easily chosen to suppress her concerns to avoid being outcast from the rest of Imperium. So it speaks greatly to who she is that she was so willing to fight for the dragons. She put her life on the line to stand up for them. At the height of the ninjas' stand against the Empress, Sora runs into her parents for the first time in years. However, after seeing video proof of Beatrix's evil, they still insist that she's innocent and want Sora to come back with them. A detail I find really interesting is that as a kid, when Dr. LaRose showed her the dragon and told her its name, she points out that it's an ancient Imperium word for orphan. And Sora taking that name for herself as well represents just how abandoned she felt by her parents. I'm actually glad Sora's parents weren't redeemed, as redemption wouldn't make sense for them after everything, and instead of her parents' relationship with her being magically fixed, she was given the opportunity for closure with them. She was able to finally voice her feelings to them. Her line of, "I thought I had to prove myself to you, but you should never have to prove your worth to your own parents," solidifies the fact that she was able to move on and quit blaming herself for the rift between her and them. Ninjago has a heavy theme of found family, and I think Sora has one of the best found family stories in the series. I also think it's worth mentioning that the voice acting for Sora was a huge element in her emotions feeling so genuine. Over the course of one season, she's gone through an immense amount of personal growth through the significant and long-term challenges she's had to face head-on. Sora has such a unique story when it comes to actually letting go of people who aren't good for her, especially when those people are her own mother and father. She's one of my favorite characters as well as one that many fans of the show root for, and I think it's well deserved given how far she's come within the first season alone, not to mention her continued development in Season 2. But that is all for now.